And introduce our guest this evening, and I know that we're all very, very enthusiastic about meeting him. So know that you are well anticipated, Hal. And Hal Aronson is the creator and co-director of We Share Solar, a program of We Care Solar. He is a founder of We Care and We Care Solar, and serves as the director of technology and training. He developed the We Care Solar Suitcase to address the problem of electricity that faces health centers, schools, and orphanages for the 20% of the world's population which does not have electricity. That statistic just blew me away when I read that. Though trained as an academic, Hal has been providing renewable energy education programs for 18 years in a variety of settings that include professional development workshops for teachers, schools, workforce programs, electrician training, and colleges in both the US and Uganda. He fell in love with solar energy technology when he built a standalone solar home in 1983. He has a PhD in sociology from UC Santa Cruz. And the We Care Solar Suitcase systems are providing power in over 1,000 health centers, hospitals, and Ebola screening centers in 30 countries, primarily in Africa and Asia. These are built by American students, and they're lighting up schools and orphanages in Haiti, Peru, Uganda, the Philippines, South Sudan, Sierra Leone, Senegal, Cameroon, and Kenya. He's particularly devoted to the We Share program because he is inspired by how students and teachers have shown how meaningful it is to them to be engaged in projects that help their less fortunate counterparts in regions of the world that do not have access to electricity. So welcome, Hal. We are so glad to have you here with us.
Thank you. It's good to meet you all. And thank you for taking the time at the end of a teaching day to learn more. I know a little bit about what day-to-day classroom teaching is like. That's why I don't do it. But I really respect all of you that do. Unfortunately, I discovered I still have homework, even though I am not a day-to-day teacher. I thought at some point in my life I would have a career that didn't involve having to go home and still work. But I guess that's just not in the cards for me. So what I want to do before I have some images to show you, but before I do that, I just want to tell you what the crux of the We Share program is. And we've sort of learned the crux only by doing it. But the crux of it is that we've come to discover or learn that students are no different than the rest of us. They also care to have meaning and purpose in their lives, and they care to have their work go to some end in which it actually makes the world a better place. That's no news to you all because you're teachers. You're certainly doing it for that reason. There's no other real reason. Maybe love of teaching and love of hearing yourself speak, but mainly it's that you're actually trying to have a positive impact on the world. And so the We Share program is an opportunity for kids to learn STEM by doing something that has a direct benefit for their less fortunate counterparts in other parts of the world. And I thought kids would mainly, or students would mainly love doing the We Care Solar, the We Share Solar technology because it's such magical, exciting technology to make electricity out of sunlight. But to my great surprise and delight, the thing that was first and foremost was that they got to have some empathy for other people and do something that they knew could be helpful to them. So that's the crux of the We Share program. Now I'm going to show you a few images because my chance to travel to other countries taught me an awful lot. I don't know how many of you have spent time in countries in which most of the population does not have electricity. Anybody here? Yeah, one person. Oh, okay, great. So this won't be total news to you. Now, to share my screen, if I do this right, I just learned the technology from Andy recently.
We can see your slides.
Can you see them? Okay. But I wanted to start a little earlier. Okay, so here we are. About 6 years ago, my wife went to Nigeria. She's a doctor, to find out why so many mothers die in childbirth. She went to actually to a hospital in northern Nigeria, and she thought she'd learned that they didn't have certain protocols or certain medications or certain equipment for delivering medical care. And what she discovered uh, her surprise was that the biggest impediment to the women getting help when they were having a difficult delivery was that the doctors could not see them. The electricity was out at the hospital a large part of the time. And no electricity meant, of course, no refrigeration, which meant no blood for blood transfusions. But even more importantly, they couldn't even see if the woman was hemorrhaging or not. They couldn't do the most basic basic medical procedures. If you look at this light, that is the floor of the maternity ward at a hospital that serves 1 million people in northern Nigeria. And it's got a very high maternal mortality rate. This room is actually full of women in beds with their babies. And so that's what she saw there. And so she called me up, and I've been doing solar for a long time. And I said, I think we can help with this problem. This is the operating room at the same hospital. Do you notice where the light's coming for the surgery? Coming from the window. This is that same surgical theater at night. So if women are tearing or if they have a wound, they can't even suture them at night. They have to just pack them down and wait till the following morning to attend to it. So that's why we formed We Care Solar, so that we could provide the most important electricity, what I call the first 100 watts, enough for light and communications. And early on, we just built the solar suitcases in my backyard, and then we'd carry them to Nigeria, somebody going to Nigeria, or she would go when she went back to do some more observations, and set up a small solar electric system to give them light. I also did a lot of professional development workshops in solar, and I got a number of teachers interested in the project. And so some of our early builders of solar suitcases, which are complete solar electric systems, came from different engineering programs in local schools. And here's a class that built the solar suitcase. You can see what it looks like. It's a case, and it's got all the components of a solar electric system, some high efficiency lights, and some solar panels. And they would get them as often as the kids would bring them. And the teachers loved the programs, and the students loved them. It was a great way to teach STEM because it was STEM with a clear purpose, and they could learn all about designing and building solar electric systems and get hands-on experience wiring, something that even a lot of engineering students don't seem to get enough of. And here's one of our systems aiding in a surgery. That's only 5 watts of light, and that's enough to light up the surgical field so that this person can get the help they need. So what happened, though, is after a while, people found out about us, and they gave us a lot of money. And they said, if something is good for 20 health centers, why not do it for 1,000? And so we could no longer build them by hand. And so we actually redesigned the solar suitcase for manufacturability, and we set up a factory, or we engaged a contract manufacturer in Fremont, and there's our solar suitcases now being manufactured in larger numbers. And it was good because we could build a more consistent quality of solar suitcase. Here's one in the Philippines that was used after the Typhoon Haiyan. And so they get bolted to the wall, they become a cabinet, and then the solar panels go on the roof. So there's the solar suitcase there. But here's what happened. The same teachers that we trained to build solar suitcases said, hey, we still want to do the project. Can't we still build them and send them to health centers? Well, the answer was no. You can't build them and send them to health centers because we now have to build to a certain spec and need consistent quality. And now we're doing a large number. But there are other people in the same parts of the world that could really use them. For example, students. And this might be a surprise to most of your students, but in the parts of the world where there isn't electricity, kids really want to go to school. It's not a have to. They actually want to go to school, and they want to study. And they'll do almost anything to get to study. So look, they're using, I don't even know what that light source is. Something's burning. It's probably something like kerosene and wicks, and they're studying by that. That's not good for their eyesight. It's not good for their respiratory system. But look at them. That is important. And this is actually a very good learn for your students. In some parts of the world, kids are desperate to get to go to school. And in certain parts of the world, there are actually in the world, there's hundreds of millions of students who do not have electricity to study at night. Here's a typical study hall at a place where there might be a street light. Students go out to the street light to find a place to study. A lot of the places I've been, there are not even working street lights. There's no grid whatsoever. And so the students either use candles or a little wick into a can of kerosene, which is kind of sketchy to study. And that's not a whole lot of light. There's also orphanages. One of the places I work is Uganda, which has a phenomenal number of orphans because of HIV, warfare, and life's just a little bit more dangerous in Uganda. It's not as secure. If you get in a traffic accident, good luck getting the care you need. I shouldn't be laughing about that, but I've been in some pretty hairy close calls there, and I figured, well, if that happens, that's just the way it goes. So we decided that we'd have the students build, if they wanted to do the project, to build for orphanages, schools, and libraries in places where there was no light. So that's when WeShare was reborn as a program directly to benefit American students by giving them a good STEM education with a purpose, and then to have what they build go and help their counterparts in other countries. So this is WeShare Solar, and this is what the WeShare Solar suitcase looks like. Instead of being yellow, it's blue. And what we say is that students learn, they build, they share, and they get inspired. And one of the most important parts of getting somebody interested in doing engineering or science is inspiration. Certainly, I started off as a biochemistry major. I was inspired by the work being done in medical biology, and that's why I pursued and spent a couple of years studying biochemistry. So, by the way, that young lady is my 8th grade daughter, and she's just built her first solar suitcase the other day because I had to go give a demo. And I think it's a really well suited for 8th grade and up. Some of the things about the solar suitcase are that they're really designed for the harsh reality of conditions in the developing world. They're in a waterproof case. They're simple, they're rugged, they're easy to understand, and they're very inexpensive to maintain. This is what it looks like sort of when it's set up. You can see a solar panel on one side, a cable that goes into the solar suitcase to bring the solar into the case. Do you see that multicolored object that has a number on the screen? That's a charge controller, and that regulates the charge from the solar to the battery. That blue item is a 12-volt battery, and the solar suitcase can either be powered by a 12-volt 14-amp-hour battery, or you can put a much bigger battery on it. It's designed to be expanded, but at the same time, you can carry everything you need in the box if you're going to a remote area and you're getting there by yak or horseback or foot, which is the place where a lot of these do go. And it can power a lot of things. It powers lights. It can charge up batteries for headlamps, charge cell phones. And if you put in a bigger system, you can charge up laptop computers, tablets, and even run audiovisual equipment. So we decided to build it into a kit that would maximize learning. So we wanted to somehow find a way to maximize the learning experience, but also maximize the ruggedness and durability. So the wires come with the connectors already crimped on professionally. And what this does is it enables the connections to be very strong and reliable. Because if any of you who have done electrical work know or taught electrical, an electrical system is only as good as its weakest connection. And when that connection breaks, the system does not fully function anymore. So it's all made of very, very high quality parts, which makes it more on the expensive side. But you know when you get it to the last mile that it's going to work. And it's going to work for a long time. We also created a curriculum so that when you teach this in your classes, students can learn a wide range of topics that are related to solar engineering, from the photovoltaic effect and shading to how how do you design and configure a system, how do you expand a system, battery chemistry, all kinds of blades stuff, series parallel wiring, of course. Let me see. So here's some images. Again, we call this STEM with a Purpose. Here's some kids that were at a tech museum event for Martin Luther King. They're holding up the solar suitcase they built. And on the lower photograph, that's some recipients at an orphanage in Uganda. This is an orphanage that has 200 students, 200 kids in it. It also serves as a school for the community. They had no light at night. And if you can imagine in an orphanage, if you have to go out to use the latrine, when you walk out, it is totally dark. It's darker than you've ever experienced in a city. It's dark like if you were camping. And there are wild animals out there. And kids get bit by snakes and other things. It's a different kind of world. Americans are not at the top of the food chain necessarily. Certainly in Kenya, in the Maasai land, there are lions around, there are elephants around, there are leopards around. So light is really, really nice to have. So here's the Learn, Build, Share. Here's some students learning about circuits. Here's some students in a workforce program building a solar suitcase. And then here's an example of students who are at a STEM summer camp in the Princeton area, building systems that went to a school that doesn't have electricity in the Philippines. One thing that's interesting to note in this picture is that a lot of these kids are from inner city Trenton, and they were mixed with kids that are also middle-class kids, and they all had an equally rich experience. I think from my own experience doing a lot of work in underserved communities, that the students that come from more stressed out and under-resourced backgrounds even gain more from the program because they often don't have a strongest sense of self-worth. And so when you give these kids a chance to do something that they know is going to help other people, it is such a powerful experience for them because now they've done something to help somebody else, and that gives them a higher opinion of themselves, and it gets them more excited about their own lives. I didn't know this until I started doing these kinds of programs, because I'd always thought, oh man, these kids are so stressed as it is. Do they even have the capacity to help others? Absolutely. They need it more than anybody else.
How there's actually research that backs that up. That was just recently on a TED Radio Hour about how that they have proven through research that people who have less share more than people who have more. So it's really interesting. I'll send you the link later. But have you had anybody from Detroit help do any solar? Because
we built a bunch of them, and we went to. I can send you some photographs later. We went to the high school that kids go to before prison, basically, and we built the early version. This was about 3 or 4 years ago, before I had it in a kit form, and it was amazing. There was like about 30 kids, and they were terrific. They loved the project. Every group completed their solar suitcases, and several of them then went on to take my solar for installing on homes training that I also did there. It's just terrific. I find that the hands-on engagement with technology is particularly good for students that don't have strong academics. And I'm actually doing a program with the Lawrence Hall of Science this summer, in which we're going to start with 9th graders, the idea being, let's turn them on early in their high school career so that they have an enhanced motivation to learn the engineering, the math, the science, because they can understand what it's used for or what they can do with it. But yeah, Detroit was actually a very, very interesting place to do it. I'd actually like to go back and do some more of it there. And we teamed up with a program called E3 Labs, which used to bring students to Africa, actually, to give them another perspective on things. This is how we work. So We Share Solar does professional development workshops for teachers, and then the teachers get the kits and they do the solar suitcase programs in their classrooms. A lot of teachers integrate it into a much larger curriculum that could take, 6 weeks. Others just do it for an intense week or for an intense weekend. It kind of depends on what the teacher has the space for and how they want to use it. Some teachers well, almost all teachers bring their own creativity to it. So some have used food to teach how a solar cell is built, because it has a couple of layers. You guys probably understand solar wafers and solar cell technology because you're doing stuff with NASA, which makes very big use of solar photovoltaics. And so there's this really great excitement about the way the different teachers bring their creativity. We give the bare bones curriculum, but teachers can develop in ways that they think will work well with their students. Many of them think that if you involve food, the learning goes a little deeper. Anyway, we have partners with NGOs that are in the countries that we serve, and so they know the schools intimately, and they have the capacity to install the systems in the schools. And then we send the complete. One of us will QC the system before it goes out to make sure it's all up and running and functioning properly, and then it gets sent to our NGO partner, who then installs it at a library, a school, or an orphanage. And this is a picture of the Shining Hope Library, which is in the Kibera slum, which is the largest slum in Africa. And it was beautifully received, and they were just overwhelmed. Just real quickly, this is our impact today. Is somebody asking a question?
No, I think so. I don't. We just need to mute the phone. Yeah, Ricky, are you able to mute it on her stand? Oops.
Oh, here's Gigi.
Yeah.
Gigi, are you there?
I am, Hal.
Oh, great. Okay, Gigi's the co-director of the program. She looks a little fuzzy, but she's the one that she actually. That last picture, that slide, it was actually, she went there with her family to help with this installation and bring the solar suitcase there. It was a special project. So in the last 18 months, we piloted this program to make sure that it was all the parts worked and that the concept was good. And so in the last 18 months, we've set up 33 educational programs, engaged about 900 American students, who assembled 156 systems, which are serving about 6,000 youth around the world. So we tried it out. We found out that they were really well received, and that our in-country partners were excellent, that everything just worked really well. Much better than some of the other programs I've been involved in the overseas. And here are some of the countries that we're in. The place where we have the most systems is Uganda and the Philippines, but we also have quite a few in Kenya. We have some in the Congo, Cameroon, Sierra Leone, Senegal, South Sudan, Peru, Haiti, just to name the main ones that they're in right now.
Hal, there's a question from the chat.
Yeah.
Are students able to follow where the suitcase goes and have a dialogue with them?
Well, that's a great question, and the answer to the first one is yes. Especially if the students fund the suitcases or they're funded by somebody that's funding the school, then we give them a lot of say in where they actually go. For example, a number of the ones that went to the Philippines went there because some of the students in Princeton, they had Filipino classmates, and they raised the money and they built them, and they actually went to the Philippines. See that one corner photograph where they're crossing the water? Getting a solar suitcase to a rural school in the Philippines is an adventure in and of itself, just to show you. So you can see the advantage of having it in that waterproof suitcase form. It's wet in the Philippines a lot of the time. But yes, and they get to know who they're sending it to. Communication is very hard. As you know, they don't have electricity, and there is something less than a good mail service. But once they get a solar suitcase and they get cell phones charged, then the possibility of communication goes way up. And as internet, et cetera, expands in some of these areas, and there's more connectivity, that will go up. But right now, there's not a whole lot of connection going from the places we serve back to us. And we get reports, but we don't really have face-to-face contact. But it is one of our wishes to do that. And I think it'll be more plausible, but these places just don't have much of they don't have much of what we call broadband out there just at this point. But they do have cell phones, so there could definitely be conversations. There's also in a lot of these places a time zone challenge. For example, the Philippines is 16 hours ahead. Africa, actually, you guys are a little closer, maybe 12 hours ahead for you guys, and Africa is maybe 6 hours ahead if you're in the East Coast. So that one could actually work. Any other questions thus far?
Yeah, Tasha wanted to know about Western Hemisphere places such as Mexico. You know, we can see that there's a lot of focus on the Eastern Hemisphere.
Yes, I was just in a meeting right now with Carlos Megan, who's started a relationship with a couple of schools in Peru. And so he's committed to developing a program there. And we have had a couple of solar suitcases installed built by high school students and carried to Peru by the International Internship Program at Princeton University. And they installed them in rural schools there in Peru. And we would like to do a lot more of that. And also Haiti is in the Western Hemisphere. And that's got a very large orphanage and school need for electricity. And we have, Gigi worked with a number of teachers who actually took them to Haiti. Do you want to speak to that at all, Gigi? Maybe later. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, there she is.
Hi, Hal, can you see me?
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we do have 3 teachers in Princeton area that have direct connections with orphanages in Haiti, and they take students with them every year to engage in activity and community service projects and cultural exchange in Haiti. And they last year in their schools built solar suitcases for the Haiti dorms, the orphanage dorms in Haiti, and for some of their community centers, and it was just a fantastic experience. And in some cases, well, I guess in 2 cases, we were told that it was the only light in the village for 3,000 people. Yeah, so pretty remarkable.
Wow, that is incredible. Vic, do you want to ask your question? I'm not sure that I mean, I think I understand it, but I want to make sure it gets asked from the right perspective. Vic put in the chat box, you want to know about cost and then how much is involved in setting it up at the school. And I don't know, Vic, if you mean at your school or at the school on the other end.
No, and I got 3 questions now. Stop. First of all, for example, let's say we have a school, I have a class that would like to set one up. What will it cost us? And then once you get one built, it goes off to the school. Does someone have to accompany this? I've noticed in almost every case there's somebody with the suitcase, or can it travel incognito and arrive at a place and it's intuitive enough that they can set it up to use it? And then finally, I just was typing in this last one, how secure are they so that some big wheel in the community does not take it away and becomes their own private electrical generator system, and it's not being serviced to where it needs to be, knowing people as we know them?
Those are all very good questions. So first of all, in the ideal world, you'd have maybe 4 students per kit, so they could all get a really good hands-on experience. The kits cost $750, and that's just for the most basic kit without a solar panel and without a battery. There's also a teacher kit, which comes with a battery and a solar panel, but they don't all need the solar battery and panel for the students to explore solar electricity with them, so you could do that if you wanted to. We encourage teachers to keep one as a demo and to learn solar in the classroom, and then to have the others go out to do their work in the country of destination, if they so choose. When they're fully equipped with solar panel, with battery, with all the lights they need, cell phone charging, and hardware for mounting them at the school to bolt them to the wall and to bolt the panels to the roof, the all-in cost was about $1,200. That may seem like a lot or a little, I don't know. Usually it's not the school that pays for them. Usually it's like a local corporation or the utility company, students raise money. We're going to try to raise some money to have a matching fund. We like it if the students participate in some of the fundraising because it's good for them to learn that one of the ways you make things happen in the world is you got to get some resources. We're unabashed by the price because that's what it takes to do a real high quality piece of equipment. And this is a very high quality piece of equipment that's designed to last for a long time. There's too much equipment that's not a very good quality that goes to the developing world, and it doesn't leave a good experience. So this is high quality solar equipment that's going out there. So anyway, that's basically it. So we think it's about $5,000 to totally equip a class to have that experience of doing it. The next question was about just sending it. How does it get there? So we've had multiple ways of getting it there. Sometimes, like Gishi's example of the Princeton teachers who actually took it to Haiti, the actual teachers or students actually get to go and install them. And that's happened in a few cases, to Senegal, to Haiti, to the Philippines. Sometimes we partner with another, like the Princeton University, and their interns who are going for international travel, take them with them as carry-on luggage or as check-in luggage that they take on the airplane. Third, we ship it. We ship it out there, or we have a third party carry it. For a lot of the orphanages, there are organizations in the United States that support orphanages in the developing world, and they go there regularly, and they'll become the couriers, and they may install them, but usually we provide training to somebody locally in the country. They're not hard to install, but you still need some basic construction skills because you're attaching something to a roof and you don't want it to fall down and you don't want it to cause a leak. But they can be used right out of the box as well. And in some communities, we actually do an installation training, which is also a lot of fun. It depends on the situation. We develop a relationship, or the local NGO has a relationship with the village that it's going to. They know the school. They know what's called, like in Philippines, it would be the barangay captain. If it was an African village, it would be the local chief. When I go there to do the We Care solar works, I always meet the chief and the elders and the community. So they know this thing is going in there, and they know it's becoming the property of their community to serve their community. And nobody is going to touch it, because if they do, they have to deal with the chief. They have to deal with the community. It's not a discrete thing that happens to be there. It's a part of the community property. And that doesn't bode well for the chief if he steals the solar system off the school. And they all know it because it's usually one of the only solar systems in town. It's quite distinct. So far we've never had a problem with that. It might be if somebody's coming through the community from the outside, that might be a risk of something getting stolen, but it's not somebody that's local. And we don't do it through the government because things that you do through the government, they often have a chance of not getting to the destination. So we usually work with a local in-country NGO. Did you have any follow-up question on that?
That was exactly kind of what I wanted to hear. So I'm looking at the idea, if, for example, I have some basic electrical knowledge, so you can set me a set of instructions. We're looking at about a kit for about $1,200 that a group of students could put together. We could become a part of a class project. We could put together, give it back to you, and you would then make sure it goes to a worthy home, and we would find out where it goes.
Yes, and ideally you'd actually know where it's going before you even built it. So you get to know a bit about where it's going. So you can visualize who you're building it for. That's exactly right. And
it's real interesting. I've got some students sitting here in class listening.
Yeah.
3 of them already volunteered to do it.
That's great. How nice that you have students with you right now. Yeah, that's great. So and let me just say this. If we really like it, if the school, or not the school, but whoever the teacher gets funding from can do the whole 1,200, because that makes it a lot easier for us to be a sustainable nonprofit. But if money is the barrier, we're also going to try to raise matching funds so that if you could raise part of the money, we could provide some of the rest when possible, because we really, really want this to happen. But we really love it when the teachers come in with some of the resources, or ideally the students. I don't know if you got to see any of the videos we sent out, but with the one from like Mount Hebron School, the students actually raised part of the price of the solar suitcase, which was really sweet. Anybody else? I can keep going unless somebody has another question. I'm happy to answer it now.
Gigi jumped in and answered the question that Sally had in the chat box, so I think you can keep going.
Okay, great. So I also want you to know that we created a curriculum, and I want to show you a little taste of the curriculum, okay? And this is all digital, and I just want you to know that this is prepared by not just curriculum creators, but it was myself, who has 30 years of solar and 16 years of teaching it, plus 2 of the best instructors in the country from Solar Energy International, one of whom has an awful lot of experience not only training people at all levels, but doing an awful lot of work in the developing world, especially Haiti and Sierra Leone. So here's one unit, which is just to familiarize students with solar electricity and show them the variety of sizes of solar electric systems. And this is just one page out of that chapter. This is a basic electricity for solar, where we kind of teach them the principles, volts, amps, watts, series, parallel wiring, basic circuits, DC electricity, and so on and so forth. And it's kind of it's a partially animated, kind of a cute way, PowerPoint that goes along with the lesson plan. Let me see. The next one is teach them about circuits. And you'll see when you do the solar suitcase that we color-coded. So the solar circuits are done in yellow, the battery circuits are done in red, and the load circuits are done in blue. White is the common negative for all of them, or the ground, but all the positive sides of the circuit are done in colors that give you a sense of what they're doing. And here's an example of the backside of a solar suitcase, just to give you a sense of what the wiring looks like. Let me know if you want me to slow down too, because I want to move through here at a pretty good clip, unless somebody has a question. Okay, that was the requisite 5-second pause.
I think you're good. Yeah, there's no questions in the chat box, Hal.
Now, here's the thing that I really like about this project, and that is, this is different than what kids do or students do when they're learning computers. When a student is learning how to use a computer or a smartphone, the way they learn it is they try it out, and if it doesn't work, they try again and they try again. So they're really fast and they're trying things out. That's a really nice skill to have, but there's another nice skill to have that young people need, and that is they need to look several steps ahead. And with electricity, you don't just put it together and energize it to see if it works. Because if you do, you might have a little 4th of July kind of experience. You have to do what's called commissioning a system. So they learn how to use a multimeter and go through every circuit to make sure that the whole system is properly wired. That's called commissioning, and we all do it in the solar field, because you never want to turn on a system, whether it's small or large, until you've commissioned it. It's a great skill for students to have. They learn a little bit about how you mount a system. Here's one of our systems mounted in Uganda. And they also learn how to design a system. So I think I mentioned this, it's an expandable system. Even though what comes in the box is a 40-watt system, the system can be expanded to be a 240-watt system, which can get more work done. What determines the size of a solar electric system? The loads, what you want to power. So the students learn what a solar designer has to know, and they can design for a particular library. If they know, for example, that they're going to build one for a library, and the primary function of the library is to light up a certain size space so a certain number of students can study, they can do a load analysis, and then they can build a battery that's the right size to store the electricity to keep the lights on for the length of time that the lights need to be on. And then they can size the solar panel to provide enough electricity, enough energy to fully recharge the battery on a daily basis. So there's some pretty good math opportunities there. And they also have to know a little bit about the solar resource in a particular area they're designing for. Some areas have rainy seasons. Some areas in the north latitudes have a lot of sun in the summer, but very little in the winter. Around the equator, they might get very even insolation. And so they need to put all that into their calculations to properly size the solar system and to size one that will actually function on a daily basis. I'll just show you a few slides from this kind of sizing curriculum. So here's looking at the loads, and they understand that they have to size the panel and the battery to power those loads, and we encourage efficient loads. And that can be a really good class or lesson in efficiency, is you can power, with the same size battery, you can power one incandescent light for an hour, or maybe 5 LEDs for 4 hours, right? For example, that's a very nice little lesson right there. And so anyway, you learn you figure out what your loads are and when they're going to be used. And then you have to know when their loads are being used. For example, daytime loads like maybe charging a laptop computer or a cell phone can be charged during the daytime, so you don't have to pull energy out of the system battery. You can use the solar panel almost directly, in a sense, to charge things that already have their own internal batteries. But things like lights need to be run off a battery at night because there's not going to be any sun during the daytime. So lights being used at night need to have the energy stored in a battery, in what's called a secondary battery, one that can be cycled many times. And then they need to know, like, what is the energy consumption what's the power consumption of the load, and how is that load going to be used? How many hours a night? And that will help them really determine the size of the battery. And then they can look at what are the daytime loads. And anyway, going through this process, and I'm going to move through this kind of quickly, they can then figure out what the nighttime energy requirements are, what the daytime energy requirements are, and then they can size the battery and the solar panel accordingly to power those loads. That's a nice animation. And they need to plan for weather. Anyway, there's a lot of really good math and engineering in this. And what's really fun, and I went through this kind of fast because I don't feel like dwelling on it right now, but what's really exciting about this is that you can actually live with that solar system in your classroom and power things and really learn what it can do and what it can't do. And you can even say, hey, we wanted to charge more with this. Maybe we need to change the system. And so when you find out that a small solar panel is not very good for charging 4 laptops, you might decide, let's figure out what these laptops really require, and then redesign your system, add some more solar panels, which are now quite inexpensive, and build out your solar electric system and watch it do what it needs to do. And then you can also learn where you put your solar panels to maximize the solar harvest, etc. And the students can become very renewable energy literate through doing this kind of an activity. One of the things that I believe is that you don't really learn a whole lot about energy until you actually live with the system for a while, and then you really learn what it does do and what it can't do. Okay. Sorry for running through this so fast, but I realize I don't think this is kind of that interesting to spend much time on in this kind of format. Here's just an example to show you how big the system can get, that it can get up to about 200 or 240 watts of solar and a 100 amp hour battery, which is about 1.2 kilowatt hours of energy storage, which you can do quite a lot with, including powering refrigeration. And they can also they'll learn more advanced wiring if we do this with them, like how to wire solar panels in parallel so that they can add current without adding voltage, for example. And there's our team. Gigi's the second one, the one whose picture is underneath mine. And then the bottom 2 people are very high octane solar energy curriculum teachers and creators. let's see. How do I turn off the, oh, yeah.
Are you wanting to stop sharing, Hal?
I'm wanting to stop sharing, and instead
Go up to the float your cursor up to the top of the bar, and you should get a float down menu, and it'll say stop sharing.
it said share new. Oh yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Excellent. There you are.
Excellent.
Wow,
Okay, there we all
that
are.
was amazing. It was amazing. Did you want to open it up for more questions, Hal? Or,
yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Or comments, or did you have questions for the teachers, or?
See, what was the last thing you said?
I said, or if you had questions that you wanted to pose to the teachers, but otherwise, everybody, once Hal gives the word, you can unmute your mic and ask away.
Ask away.
Okay. Again, I'm never quiet. I see a real potential for my next year's physics class, because usually in the middle of the year when the weather's terrible, we do special projects.
Mm-hmm.
This seems to be a real natural walk-in on electricity and everything. So let's assume that money isn't going to be a problem. I can come up with $1,200. That's not going to break us, not in a fishing community like we're at. So I can come up with the $1,200. What do I do? Who do I contact? What do I tell them? So that we can start this project next December.
You contact Gigi, and if you didn't have electrical know-how, we'd want you to come to some kind of a professional development workshop or work with somebody in the community that does know electricity. If you do know electricity, by then we have really good guides that will show you how to wire it and commission it, and we will provide those to you, and they're used for the students to assemble also. So you get in touch with us and you let us know you want to do this. Give us a little bit of a heads up, because we actually have to decide how many units we manufacture with about a 3-month lead. And we're going to actually create some additional videos to also assist the teachers.
Okay, now, for example, I can wire a house. Do I have enough electrical knowledge?
That's great. That's great. Actually, that's very useful, because the switches that we use for lighting and the light cords stuff are based on standard residential house wiring technique. But you'll be all 12-volt DC. So do you? And I'm assuming you understand DC electricity as well.
That's how you test DC. You get your finger touch the tool.
It's got the added advantage that nobody will get electrocuted if there's a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great, Vic. I'm really glad you want to do it. I would encourage you. Do you do it with the whole class or with a subset?
What I'm thinking of at the very beginning to test the waters, I would propose that the students. I propose this whole thing. If the students don't want to do it, I'm sorry, it's probably not going to happen. But
that's all makes sense.
Arms pretty good. That they would decide a way of fundraising the money, because I definitely am not going to take money out of the school budget. They need to come up with the money. And I'm sure I had 4 kids right here. Unfortunately, they're graduating that took physics last year, and they all sat here and said, "Oh, we'll do it. That sounds like fun." So I won't have any problem getting students involved.
That's cool.
My biggest problem is the timing of how I can get it rolling. I need 3 months lead. School teaching is full time. It's just bang, 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 bang. And so I need a little lead. So to me, the way I think I need to do is sit down and talk to Gigi for a while on the phone later.
Yep, that'd be great. And let me just add one more thing. When you said that about the students in the classroom, and I'm addressing the students here.
They're gone.
What?
They finished their homework and left.
Well, somebody's recording this, so this might be a beautiful legacy project for them. And here's my little thought. If they really want to build one and want to raise some of the resources for it, they could build you your demo unit, have the experience of building one, and then you'd get to see it and get to know it up close and personal as you plan for doing the project as a full-on project the following year. And that it also might be very useful in the fundraising for them to see an actual system. They get very excited when they actually get their hands on the technology.
How would I get a hold of a demo model?
Gigi.
Okay.
All roads lead to Gigi.
Yeah.
And if you don't get a hold of her for some reason, you can always get a hold of me too.
Okay.
I'm not hiding. We just have certain processes that work better.
No, it's really like I said, these guys were working on their chemistry, finishing up their homework, and as soon as they started listening, they thought this was cool, and they were listening, and they start, three of them said, "I'll do one." Of course, one of them is an Eagle Scout, and another one is, these are involved kids. They're not, shall we say, the students who luxuriate in the sunshine. They work.
Oh, that's great.
They were enthused about it.
That's great to hear. Where are you, by the way?
Petersburg, Alaska,
Alaska. Oh, fantastic. Okay.
where we don't get any sunshine.
No, you get sunshine only sometimes.
Very slightly. 300 days of the year, it's cloudy.
Oh my God. Well, that'll be a good lesson in the limitations of solar electricity. You'll need a really big panel.
I want to get a sense of this, because I really see an interesting project, an interesting lesson, an interesting unit, and good PR for the school.
Yeah, yeah.
In other words, schools always need some kind of PR. And
Right.
this one is also a good PR for the school too, if we can pull it off.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right.
So I'm not as fortunate as Vic to just easily see how it fits into my curriculum. And I teach chemistry, and I have Jeannie here who teaches environmental science. And I know my kids' environmental science teachers, so I really look for what is the curriculum that I could base this project with.
Well, I did study chemistry, but I'm not sure exactly what you're required or you want to cover in your class. But one of the huge leading edges of research right now for the United States is battery chemistry and how it stores energy. And that's all about really nice, especially secondary batteries are backwards and forwards equations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lead to lead sulfur. What is it? H2O plus sulfuric acid plus lead then releases the energy and it becomes lead sulfate and something else. I forget right now. There's lead acid battery chemistry. There's lithium ferrous phosphate chemistry. There's the chemistry of a solar cell.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure, you covered the kind of the electrical properties when you studied chemistry? So it's basically the way a solar works is that you have purified silicon that they then dope with boron and phosphorus. And the reason it has great electrical properties is because phosphorus has extra electrons in its outer orbital shell, and
Right.
boron is hungry for electrons. And so that creates the voltage differential and the electromagnetic field that enables a solar cell to work. I think that's kind of right up the line of chemistry, for example, right? So
I guess in general chemistry, we get into voltage maybe at the end of the year, like it's the last chapters, right? So then I'm wondering how to convince, I guess in the simpler things that we deal with, how can I convince my team that this would be something that would really emphasize our basic curriculum concepts?
Sure. I'm just thinking out loud, and maybe some other people can give some ideas as well on this. But those are a couple examples that just immediately came to mind on chemistry.
And
Certainly,
I saw your curriculum developer has environmental science background. Is it true? Like I saw the list and I saw, oh, environmental science. Does she create curriculum that would go with an environmental science class, or is that?
No, we haven't really created stuff specifically for environmental science. I've created a lot of solar curriculum for environmental science because it's so important to environmental sciences. And we found that is it AP environmental science?
Yes.
Yeah. Usually after they take their AP test in the spring, they're worthless for anything academic after that. And that's when a hands-on project is particularly a good time to bring out. But yeah, I think that anything renewable energy is really relevant to an environmental science class.
Right.
What we're doing, for example, what we're doing with this project is we're displacing kerosene and fire, and which is also a health issue, but it's also a climate change issue, and we're displacing generators. So these are all offsetting carbon in the atmosphere. You have some, yeah.
Thank you.
Is that Claire? Did you just come on?
Hi Al, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm at a conference in San Francisco this week, so I got roped into a different meeting this afternoon. So I hope the workshop went well.
I don't know.
We'll get the reviews after you hang up.
Let me know.
I'm sure it was great.
Claire and I have taught together because Claire and I are part of this Sun is Amazing program where we are combined astrophysicists with solar on the ground solar guys. So students learn the amazing science of the sun, and they also kind of learn the more pragmatic use of the sun's energy when it gets to the earth. We've had a very good time working together on that project.
Yep.
Yeah. And Hal, I don't know if you remember me, but we've taught together at AEOE conferences and when I was at the Lawrence Hall of Science.
Oh my God. Tell me your name. I do know who you are.
Ricky Shackelford.
Yeah, Ricky. Yeah.
How are you?
Excellent. Well, how good to hear you. I didn't recognize your profile. That's great. AEOE is outdoor education. We used to do a lot of solar with them.
Yeah, it's nice to see you.
Hey, great to see you too.
What a small world this is.
Oh.
Are there any other additional questions from I know some of you are taking our soaker inners, but are there any questions or comments or wonderings that you have about what you've heard tonight?
Well, let us know if you want to look at the curriculum and see if it's interesting to you. And then Gigi will find a way, I think probably using Dropbox. Is that something you guys use? Or maybe you guys have another way of disseminating it. You should take a look and see some samples of what we're doing. And
so if you want to hook me up, maybe I can work with Gigi on that. And so we have the Widgio, that is the platform that we use to archive all of our resources.
Okay,
and
great.
I can show you that, and anything that you are willing to send me, either via Dropbox or something like that, I can make sure it gets posted up there. And again, you and Gigi will be receiving an invite to come be part of that platform. We kind of like to hold on to the people that come and engage with our community because we want you to continue to be part of that. So
that'd be great.
So yeah, well, let's work after this meeting. Maybe we can email back and forth and figure out what you want, are willing to make available. These teachers will take anything you offer them. They are very enthusiastic and very, as you heard at the beginning of the meeting, all very, very engaged in sharing group. So we can definitely talk about how we can get that cooked up. I see your comment in the chat box, Gigi, that you also have a hard copy. We're just about 5 minutes out before the end of our meeting. I want to make sure that everybody got a chance to say something that wanted to before we close. Gigi is telling us that they do have, I think I already said that they have a hard copy that is available as well for those of us who don't want it electronically. So we will definitely be in touch and make sure that you guys have a connection to this group. Because I think they're kind of interested, and I'm sure that once the others look at the archive video, they will also be very, very interested in what we're doing.
Yeah, I recommend that you do take a look. This is not to try. I'm not trying to sell you a program. If you're really interested, we'd love to work with you. If you just want to know that such things are happening, that's great too. It's just to inform you about it. But the students build videos about their experiences that are very exciting to us, just to see how it affected them.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It's amazing what they can do.
It really is. Any last comments from anybody? Oh, go ahead.
I had asked about Mexico because my church actually goes down to build houses there in the summertime. And so I'm wondering if they have that kind of connection in the communities, could we also include something like this?
It's really not designed for residential, but certainly if they have a community center or a school and they wanted to go down and as part of that program, if they have a relationship with the community, that could be a very exciting option to do that. That said, I would really hope that when they do design these houses, that they're designing it so that they can do solar electricity for the houses. There's some really nice, much lower cost systems that are designed for kind of residential use. They're more like consumer grade. Our stuff is institutional grade. It's meant for much harder service. So you can get probably for several $100s something that can light people's houses, a small amount of their houses, and also charge their cell phones.
Where do I find that? Do I talk to Gigi?
Gigi's a great source. You can send me an email too. I can link you to a couple of very good companies that do that kind of work.
Okay.
But they're dedicated toward bringing a modest amount of electricity so that people can get away from kerosene and candles. And it's cheaper. It's a lot cheaper than kerosene. Kerosene, will cost you several dollars, $5 a month. So you can pay for these systems over a year or two.
Diane says in the chat box that she will definitely be sharing this information with her lunch bunch and physics group. So, yeah, the word will be spreading.
Very good. Well, thank you.
Got one more question before you leave.
Okay, Vic.
What is your, I don't want to say philosophy, but how do you approach working with, for example, some various church groups?
We are secular and inclusive. So we do a lot of work with church groups because church groups are a major way to help orphans in other countries. And
so if I've got a former student in South Africa right now who's been there for about 5 years and he's living there now, and he's in the process of building schools, would be something that we could think about contacting. And not, I wouldn't contact them, but could be a source. Is this how you find sources?
We find them in a number of ways, but that's exactly right. If you know of somebody that's building schools, that's fantastic. No, especially if they're building schools in areas that don't have electricity, don't have a grid. We want to primarily serve places that don't have another good source of electricity, reliable source of electricity.
Their best building materials are cinder blocks. Most of it's mud and sticks. Yeah,
isn't it beautiful how people can build with just the material that's around them? I love that. Yeah. Well, then they're our kind of customer. We'd be happy to connect with that person. And kudos to you for having students that are doing good work in the world.